This is the I Read Comic Books podcast, the very best podcast for regular comic book fans. I'm your host, Mike Rappin. Joining me this week, a dynamic duo of terror. This week, I'm joined by the one and only Paul Jasley.
Hello, humanoids.
And that guy that you know as a bobbling face in the video right now, Nick White.
Hello.
Thank you guys for joining me this week. I'm very excited to chat and, comic books with you here live on twitch.tv. Some of you who are keeping close attention to the IRCB schedule may notice that Marty Keene is not here. Unfortunately, we had a schedule mishap on my end. I misspoke about some days and times and whatever. So we're going to get Marty on the show maybe later this year. But thanks, Danny. But we're here to talk about comic books as we usually do. I want to say before we get into things, for those of you who supported the IRCB zine, there's still time if you haven't yet to go to ircb.fyi/zine to get a late copy of the PDF or the physical zine. Kate Lamphere and I sat down this past week and we started organizing all sorts of images and texts and all the things you have to do to put together a print file. It's coming along swimmingly. I have to write a little bit of a nice intro that we're going to drop in the front of the zine. But overall, seeing all of these pages that we got by all the 25 different artists, the 21 different artists that we had in the zine together in one beautiful little PDF thing. Oh, it is something special. I also ordered like 500 stickers that are on the way to my house right now. Literally, I have to put them on top of the zines, and I know people don't like to get extra things in the mail with their Kickstarter stuff, but we are going to give you a special IRCB sticker that I made specifically for this. So a lot of stuff happening with the zine. We're going to have everything delivered by July, if not sooner. It may actually be significantly sooner. So I'm excited to get that all wrapped up. Things are looking great. Paul, your art looks fantastic in this print file.
Thank
I'll
you,
just
Mike.
say. Danny's on the call with us right now. Danny, Kate and I did something really cool to make your work pop. It's going to be really fun. You're going to see this. But anyways, we're here to talk about comic books. I have two legally mandated questions that I have to ask you guys every single week, as we do here on IRCB. How have you been? How have comic books been? Paul, I'm going to kick things over to you.
Mike, I am so far behind on comics. It's comical at this point. No pun intended. But last time I went to the comic shop, the first time I'd been there in probably 4 weeks, a giant stack of comics. I'm slowly chipping away at it. So anything I've read recently is either like a month or two old news, or already been talked about on the show. But sure, I have been keeping up on my Fantastic Four journey. I know a couple months ago on the show I mentioned I was going to try to read all, I believe it was 104 issues that Jack Kirby and Stan Lee did back in the 1960s of the Fantastic Four. I made it through issue 40, so I'm pretty good pace. They're fun issues to read, and which is nice because I'm in what we can solidly say and call is the good stuff. This is the good stuff.
Oh,
so
nice.
The first 20 issues or so, they're figuring what this book is supposed to be. Jack and Stan, they're not always on the same page. There's a lot of just like a great issue, then a dud issue, back and forth. It's not consistent, which makes sense because they're not only doing the Fantastic Four, they're doing all the other Marvel books, why am I blanking on everyone's name? The Avengers, Thor, Hulk, all these other comics and stuff. And what's funny is to see when they reach this point, everything is kind of clicking. They're on the same page. The stories are a little bit more like out there and wild. There's a lot more continuity that's happening. You're seeing stories get referenced again and again. Villains keep popping back up. You see crossovers. Like I read a great little 2-issue thing where the Hulk is fighting the Thing, and it's this big 2-issue battle that they have. And the Avengers show up like, oh, don't worry, we got the Hulk. And Mr. Fantastic's like, no, we started this fight. We'll take care of it. Issue 28 is notable to you, Mike, because the Fantastic Four fight the X-Men. That's the first time they meet up. That's a fun one. And on top of it all, which I love all this stuff, I finally get to see Jack Kirby look like Jack Kirby. Like the early issues is clearly him, but he's figuring out how to draw differently. And like when you get to this point, it looks like the Jack Kirby you see in the New Gods or in later Kirby stuff. Like it has that level of dynamism to it. There's a thing where like no one's ever standing still in these comics. Everyone's always poised to jump, and like the anatomy, and like Jack Kirby's anatomy has always been a little iffy, but now he's leaning into it and making it a bit more abstract and dynamic. And then like, every page is just like a 6-panel grid. It's very easy to follow. Like it finally looks like Jack Kirby, which I love because this is 1964, I think, at this point. So Jack Kirby's 47 years old. He's been drawing comics since the 30s, and he's still learning new techniques and trying new ideas. Most notable of which I think is he's incorporating some Kirby collages now in these issues. There's a couple issues where they go to outer space, and this is photo collage of like outer space. And like there's one issue, I think it's issue 37, which isn't a great issue, but they go through outer space, and it's this photo collage of what outer space looks like. And, you know, you see the spaceship and all this and the planets and all that. And Stanley has to write a thing like, in case you think the story is too far-fetched, this is actually photographs taken of the Fantastic Four ship from the outside. It looks hazy because of the atmosphere around the planet that they're orbiting around. I was like, okay, you don't have to explain it. Just let it look cool. But it's fun stuff. And I think it's really clicking to me now, like why this book is so important. I know, you know, I made it through issue 40. I mentioned a couple standout issues, but like when you get to like issues 38, 39, 40, it becomes like one kind of continuous story, the way you think of contemporary comics functioning. You know what I mean? Where it's like issue 38, they fight the Frightful Four, who, if you don't know the Frightful Four, that's of course this.
I don't.
This, of course. The Frightful Four is Madame Medusa, not Medusa from the Inhumans yet, but Madame Medusa, Sandman, the Wizard, and Paste Pot Pete, who very quickly changes his name to the Trapster after like his first appearance.
Yeah, that's a real upgrade.
That's like classic Stan Lee really trying to find any way that he can alliterate.
So they show up, and then like they get defeated. The Fantastic Four get defeated by the Frightful Four by explosion of the Q bomb, which somehow that causes the Fantastic Four to lose their powers. So in issue 39, they don't have their powers, and Mr. Fantastic's like inventing mechanical ways for them to have their powers. Like he builds a thing robot for Ben Grimm to control, and you know, he builds like an invisibility suit for Sue, and all that. It's great, but they have to contact their attorney, Matt Murdock, for some legal documents. So he shows up. When he's there, Dr. Doom attacks. So it's all of a sudden it's Daredevil guiding the Fantastic Four, who realizes don't have powers, back to the Baxter Building that Dr. Doom's taken over. And then issue 40 is the amazing Battle of the Baxter Building, which is probably the best issue I've read so far. Incredible stuff. And that issue ends with Ben Grimm beating the shit out of Dr. Doom. It's incredible. He just pounds Dr. And it's, I'm reading this stuff, I'm like, okay, this is what I've been waiting for. Like the other issues were fun, but now it's fun. And I'm really excited because I know issue 48 is the Galactus trilogy starts. That's when everything's really kind of ramping up. Right. Which ties into the Fantastic Four trailer that just dropped this week. So I'm all Fantastic Four all the time right now, I think, in my brain.
That's great. Are you also reading the Ryan North book that's coming out, even if you're behind on it?
Yeah, I'm a couple issues behind, and I'm also I usually sit out Marvel events, but I have the first 2 issues of the One World Under Doom or whatever it is, like the Doom. Right. I have to dive into that still, but I like the Ryan North Fantastic Four. It hits a lot of the things I like about this stuff, where the Fantastic Four are a family. They're always kind of bickering. There's like a dynamic to the team that I really like that he kind of captures, and especially like including the side characters. I love Alicia Masters, and I love that she shows up so early in Fantastic Four, remains a fixture. So yeah, Fantastic Four are weird, and I think I like them so much because it is so strange, and to see it forming in front of my eyes reading the early stuff is really fun.
Now, are you reading this on like Marvel Unlimited, or for listeners who would want to sort of perhaps follow along on your journey if they decide to take that plunge? How are you doing this?
I found that Hoopla, at least the library, my library on Hoopla, has the like epic collections, which collect like 18 or 20 issues at a chunk. So the third volume of that is what I'm in right now. Nice. So it's available on Hoopla. I'm going to see. I'm assuming it's all the Stan and Jack stuff is available on there. If I reach a point where it's not, I'll have to jump over to Marvel Unlimited.
Yeah, and I don't know with how much confidence I can say this, considering I've used it a couple times, but this is probably all on Marvel Unlimited, either the collections or maybe the singles or both, right?
Yeah.
Depending upon if you like reading books on that.
Yeah, if you can find it, if you find a way to work the magics to find Fantastic Four #1 of the correct edition, I'm sure you'll have a great time, because
there is a way to do this.
Set.
It's called, you use Google, and Google links you straight into the correct page on Marvel's website. It's funny that is a joke, and yet also exactly the advice you actually have to use in order to read shit on Marvel Unlimited.
Pretty funny.
Oh God.
Well, Nick, before you go off on a soapbox about Marvel Unlimited,
how presumptive, but go ahead.
I would like to know, how have you been? How have comic books been?
How rude! How fucking dare you? Things have been good. I've reached one of those little, I guess, sort of dilemma moments where I'm like, Nick, you have all these streaming services. Like, are you really using them? And the right normal human behavior would be like, to be honest with yourself and be like, God, I'm not really using HBO, or I'm not using Disney Plus. And you click the cancel button, or you, subscribe to one of those services you see on YouTube ads, which you don't get. So you don't get to participate in this part of the discussion, Mike, where it's like, we'll scan your credit card bills and figure out what services you aren't using or whatever. And that would be the normal, sane human behavior. But for me, it's like, I need to double down on the choices I've already made. And I just need to really start watching the services I own a lot, because that will justify everything, and I will be the winner, and I am the one who wins. Jesse. That's a 2008 reference for everyone. I haven't even seen that show, so it's even better.
Listen, if you're gonna make obscure Breaking Bad reference, this is the I Read Comic Books podcast. At least somehow find a way to bring it back.
Spider-Man, right? I know.
What comic book movie was Aaron Paul in? Someone get on that.
He was in that Need for Speed movie.
So, Nick, what you're telling me is that you've tripled down on your streaming services. Now you have a copy of each one for monthly subscription, just to try them all out and figure out which one you want to binge.
I've made extra users, exactly. I've got extra email accounts, and because Danny's Disney needs my help. Because if I'm not giving Disney money, where are they going to get it from? No, I've been watching most recently. This is, I think, both poignant and sad, but it's really mostly sad. I can't bring myself to finish The Sopranos, so I think I literally have 30 minutes left, and I just can't bring myself to do it. And that's also partially because, unfortunately, in like 2007 or whatever, like I was reading CNN, or just, I guess, participating in the world, which means I know how the show ends, unfortunately. And, here I am 15 or whatever years later being like, fuck, I already know how this ends. Can't bring myself to do it.
Here's the thing, Nick. All I'll say is there's a song that should be encouraging enough, and it's by Journey, and it's called Don't Stop. Don't Stop. Okay. And you really should not stop. Okay. And it will all make sense at the end. I promise you.
All right. Well, you know what? I've been down several long Reddit message board posts about this, so I don't think it's that simple. But I've also been watching Righteous Gemstones. Thoroughly enjoying that as someone who spent a good chunk of college like writing reports about mega churches and things like that for some of my humanities classes. It's been and just growing up in the Midwest, it's been very illuminating, as I'm sure it is for the two of you, to sort of see more of that stuff. But in terms of comic books, I most recently read Those Not Afraid 1 through 3. This is written by Kyle Starks, who has really fast become, within the last year or two, probably top 5, definitely top 10 creator for me. And that's addressing the fact that some of his older stuff, like Rock Candy Mountain, for me was fine. It was good. It wasn't great. I didn't love Sex Castle. I'm not a real big Rick and Morty fan, but like, I hate this place, which I think was also alternatively, or was maybe that just for the variant cover, was Fuck This Place. And Where Monsters Lie. Just fantastic books. Just really, really great stuff that's worked for me.
Absolutely.
And Those Not Afraid, Starks has, I should also say, you've got art by Patrick Piazzalunga, who did art for Monsters Are My Business for Dark Horse last year, as well as Project Patron, which was an Aftershock series. Colors by Marco Bracco, letters by the ubiquitous Jim Campbell, covers by Glenn Fabry and Karen Holloway. Starks has presented this book as his first quote unquote serious book. I couldn't find the interview where I read this, but he sort of positioned this as his first serious book, or his first, I think he said it was his first book without humor, which is kind of true and kind of not true.
You told me about this book a few weeks ago, and I was like, "Oh, what's the bit in this book?" And you're like, "There is no bit. It's just a book about Moida, right?" Like,
right. So the conceit of this book is Those Not Afraid. It's named after a quote, which is on the opening page of the book, which says, "We've all got the power in our hands to kill, but most people are afraid to use it. The ones who aren't afraid control life itself." Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker. It's not live, laugh, love, but I mean, come on, like you gotta, it's a pretty dark way to begin the book. But that's where it's from. And the conceit is that you've got this pair of serial killers. You've got the lady killer who only kills young brunette women and then takes their heads for trophies. Again, not a real haha funny book. And the home invader whose MO is right in his name. There you go. There's some similarities here with like Ed Kemper or Dennis Rader, both of which appeared in Mindhunter, for those who have watched that. These two have this really twisted meet cute and decide that they're going to have a friendly competition to see who can reach the murder record of 57. And it's like 57 what? And we know that it's like the same area of the same state. So like you've got this region of this state where like both of them are already, I think, in the 40s, and they're trying to hit this record of 57 set by this dude called the murder hole killer before he was caught in 89. And it's like, what the fuck is going on? So I think that's sort of where I say this book is not funny, but it's also not hyper realistic, right? Like it's very much dialed up to 11. Like it's very much pushing the credulity of like reality, right? Like it's there are murders in this area, but it's like a lot of murders. So they set some rules. There's no interfering. There's no selling the other one out to the cops, and no trying to kill one another.
Okay, so you said there isn't like a joke in this book, but this conceit, this is like it's kind of maybe the funniest setup for a book about serial killers.
Well, it's like I said, like the concept is it's absolutely over the top, right?
Yeah. Okay,
it's not haha funny, but it's definitely wildly, out there.
Yeah.
And we follow this character named Cece Galloway. She hosts this podcast called Too Many Serial Killers, which has basically documented the exploits of all three of these murderers. Her dad was this ex-cop who basically failed to catch the murder hole killer. And it starts to sort of, and we find out that these serial killers are actually listening to the podcast, of course, and they're like they're very interested in it. And obviously the book starts to very lightly touch on this interplay between true crime podcasts and their role or whatnot in this space, which is something that gets discussed a lot if you listen to true crime podcasts.
Or if you're friends with Nick White.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's interesting stuff because, like, there, for example, like there are a lot of defense attorneys now who, if there's a podcast about their defendant, they'll be like, "Look, Your Honor, like this podcast has, prejudiced the jury already, or they'll be like, anybody who's listened to the show can't be on the jury. Or the show has already, basically painted my client in a certain way. So the idea that these podcasts are starting to influence and interact with, actual ongoing cases is very much ripped from the headlines.
This feels like cyclical in a weird way, where like I feel like in the time of what, like Son of Sam, for instance, like the radio would be talking about someone like him, and then he would react to that, and there's like this back and forth of like radio announcer covering things on the news, and then the serial killer listening to them on the news. Like there is like a thing that this feels like it's
like a feedback
local
loop.
TV is dead.
Yeah.
It's like podcasts are the next best thing. It's just now there's like a week delay or something, depending on how quickly they release. So I don't know. I find that to be funny. Maybe that's just me, but
no, it's like I said, it's not haha funny, but it is definitely like normal society's obsessions and interests completely dialed up to 11.
Totally.
Like the artwork, Piazzalonga's artwork really manages to walk the line really well between just graphically depicting these crimes, but also having this absolutely stylized over the top take, especially for the killers, that really just pushes it outside of what I would say you would see from a traditional true crime narrative. And the twists in this book, like for a 4-issue series, by the end of issue 2, you're like, I can't believe they went and did that. Like, I cannot believe they did that. And by the end of issue 3, you're like, what is even happening in this book? Like, the twists are organic. They're not gimmicky. They make sense. They're not Deus Ex Machina bullshit. It all makes sense within the framework of this book. 0 notes. It's perfect. And I don't remember all of this perfectly, but I will say, if you're someone who is concerned about the book getting really gratuitous about violence, again, I'd have to go back and reread it to say this with absolute conviction, but I do believe a lot of that awful shit is quote unquote off screen. Like, you're left to fill in the blanks.
Right. The story isn't about like the horrors of murder itself. It's more of the game that these serial killers are playing.
Right.
Interesting.
Like you know what this guy does. You can connect A to B all by yourself. You don't need help. Okay.
Right. Yeah. So you're saying that this is different. Like, Those Not Afraid is different than Where Monsters Lie, where Monsters Lie was kind of taking the kills of like a horror movie and kind of exploding on them because everything had to be like insane over the top. This sounds like it's more about like the story of this podcaster, these serial killers, the world that they live in, and less about like the actual murder and killing themselves itself, right?
Right. And in some ways it's like a lot of it is about America's obsession with this stuff, and then also like turning it on its head and saying like, we're obsessed with them, and then they're weirdly obsessed with the podcasts being it's kind of this twisted loop. And the only other thing I'll say, and I know some people are maybe going to get mad about this, which is fine, because like, we're here to stir the pot, right? That's how I view this show. No.
Yeah.
I don't like the Glenn Fabry covers. I don't like them. I think they're a bad fit. And some people are going to be like, Nick, this guy drew all the covers for Preacher. Nick, this guy drew a bunch of like award-winning covers for Hellblazer, and he won the Eisner in '95 for best cover artist for Hellblazer. How dare you? I think it's a bad fit. I don't think it works. It's way too realistic. I think it makes the book look more grounded than it is. I realize that getting him is a get. Like, I get that. I don't think it's a good match, and I don't like it. Yep.
Interesting.
Yep.
Well, Nick, when people start to cancel you for this, I'll send the letters directly to you.
The Glenn Fabry fan club, like, look, the guy has done some
How dare you have an opinion, Nick?
Yeah, Hellblazer covers. It's not a good match for this book. It's not. Like, it needs to have that art style that really says like it's over the top. Like, it's not funny, but it's definitely not lived in. You know what I mean? It's not like in a way that like the Green River Killer is, obviously, because I mean that's like complete nonfiction. Anyway, I can't recommend this book enough, honestly, and I feel like it's gonna fall between the cracks. And it just bums me out. So just go. Let's move the needle on this book, folks. I
really need to sit down. I mean, like, you mentioned this, Those Not Afraid to me very recently, and I'm like, I got to get on this. I have no excuse. I'm going to try to get some back issues, if not digital copies or something, from some place. I don't know, probably the only place that I can get it. Yeah. Or I'll wait for the trade or something. But this does sound like right up my alley. I really love Where Monsters Lie.
Oh,
and
God,
Kyle Starks. He's a fantastic writer. Just a fantastic writer.
I feel like he's just really organically made a good. You know, sometimes writers are like, guys, I just want to try something like completely different, and it's bad, and you're like, well, this is definitely completely different. You're right. You definitely did that.
Where do you go with this, Nick?
I feel like Kyle Starks has like really slowly, and you can see this over his books, like organically shifted. And it's not to say I don't like some of his funnier stuff, but you've seen it's almost like he's moving along a spectrum of different genres and different tones. And he's kind of just like organically gotten where he is. And I don't know. I like that.
I feel like there is a theory out there of like, in order to understand horror, you have to really understand comedy, right? Because it's all about timing and pacing.
I don't like these fucking out of the box shit. You're just
I know.
Fucking pop psychology bullshit. No. I understand. Yeah. No.
But there is something about that, and I think that your description of like him moving in a different direction on the spectrum of like writing styles or genre makes sense, right? Because I think once you've nailed comedic timing, and I think Kyle Starks maybe one of the funniest comic book writers I've ever read, right? Totally could do this, and I think his horror books show that. But we have to stop talking about this book, Nick. I will put a pin in this, and we can talk about it later. I want to talk about a book that I read. I am in the middle, as you may see, those of you watching on Twitch. My bookshelf behind me is empty. All of the comic books in my office have been moved because I was going to go into a bit about how someone stole all of my comic books, but that's not believable.
Let's start. Let's be one of those people that start a scam fund. Let's start a scam Kickstarter for Mike.
Exactly. No. I got all the Kickstarter money and I'm heading to the Bahamas, guys. No. We're redoing the floors in my house, so all the comic books out of my office had to leave so that they can refinish the wood floors underneath here. A thing that, in hindsight, I should have done 3 years ago when I moved into this house. And now we're like, damn it, I need to, I thought, I can't get that many splinters in my foot. Turns out you can get a lot of splinters in your feet, and then you get over it. So I've been doing that, had to move that. Luckily, some friends came over, helped me move things from the office up to our attic, which is very, very nice of them. So I have no comic books in this office, which is like, I cannot express to you not only just how echoey this room sounds, you may be even able to hear it in this recording, but like to not be surrounded with comics all day, because I spend a lot of my time in this chair working on the computer, just hanging out, just doing whatever. I feel drained. Like I'm missing a piece of like what makes my brain whole. Sure. And it's like not being able to constantly stare at and reminisce over all of the comic books on my shelves, like has genuinely, I think, affected me in like a bad way. It makes me feel extremely disconnected from comic books. And it's, I don't know how else to describe it. So I've been having like a really weird mental moment around things, but I've been trying to fight back against that because I decided material items have no power over me. I'm a human with all sorts of will and ability. I'm sure there's a philosophy major out there somewhere who could tell me what this Paul, tell me what this is about. No, anyways, but I've been feeling very like weird about it, but I did sit down and I like pushed myself into like, I got to just read comics, stop reading prose books, stop moping on TikTok. Just read something. And so I sat down and read some other books. I read that Absolute Martian Manhunter. Oh my gosh, have you guys heard of this book? Pretty good.
Can't wait.
We're not here to talk about that. I did read this book called The Prince in the Basement. This is by Mira Ong Chua, and it was a book that I saw on Kickstarter. A bunch of my friends in the old Comixology book club that I ran for so many years recommended this book to me. And so I sat down and I was like, I backed this on Kickstarter a while ago, had the PDF, and I was like, I got to read this thing. It looks really cool. It's like a very stark black and white comic. And the story is essentially about a princess on her coronation day discovers that a man bearing a striking resemblance, almost the exact face that she has been trapped in a crystal in the basement of her family's castle. she's ousted from the kingdom as the man is seen as the rightful heir to the throne because he has this sword that has the family's emblem, and the rulers of this kingdom have always had a sword with the family's emblem on it, and she didn't have one. So she's ousted. Her beloved is set to be executed in 7 days, and the new king basically starts to wreak havoc on the kingdom, and we don't really understand why. So as we follow the princess in her journey to try to get back to the kingdom as she's like ousted, he doesn't kill her. It's a whole complicated thing that's like very telling of like the inspiration for this book. So like when discussing this book, Amira said that it was heavily inspired by like Disney's Sleeping Beauty and 90s BL and fantasy OVAs. And if you look at this book and it's like the way that it's drawn and the style of the characters and the world that it takes place, you can totally see this like old school style anime vibe, but also the story itself has these unexplained everythings, like Snow White, for instance. You don't think too hard about the kingdom that Snow White lives in. She kind of just exists, right? Same with, Sleeping Beauty. Like, it's just kind of a world. There is an evil witch and there's this other thing, like characters fly in and out of this book. And in all honesty, there's only like 5 people in this book that have lines and are a part of it. But it's a really interesting story about understanding one's true self. There's a little bit of romance here as her partner, this very I'll say like flamboyant man just in general. He's just like a big presence. And the way that he dresses, he's got this long, luscious hair, and he's obsessed with banquets and dancing and all this other stuff. He's like such a fantastical character. And he's just heartbroken that she gets ousted from this kingdom, and obviously upset that he's going to die. But he interacts with the prince, this new king or this new ruler of the land, and has this just hard time trying to understand like who they are, because they look exactly the same as their beloved, the princess. So the story goes on. We find out about all these fantastical things, and I don't want to spoil it because I think this is like a really beautiful book from start to finish. Like the peak classic manga design that I was kind of talking about, this like very harsh, like black and white, no grays. Anytime they need to really distinguish colors, just a lot of hatching and other techniques to add that, like lots of dots on the page that you'd see in the background of manga. It's really, really clever. And I read this book so fast. It's like 424 pages, and I read it in a sitting just because I couldn't stop hitting forward on the PDF reader. It just goes and goes and goes and goes. And you get to the end of the book, and there is not like a clear definition as to what this story truly is about. It's something that I think you have to take a little bit of a leap as a reader to understand. But like this, I'm not sure who I am. I'm not sure who this other person is that's been hidden away for there's maybe a very obvious idea as to what's going on here, but at no point is the book like overt about anything. It's just like you have to think a little bit. Otherwise, it's just a nice kind of wild, fantastical fantasy story. But yeah, it's like confusing romantic feelings, unexplained magic, hesitated violence, like everything that is delivered in this book. I loved as this huge metaphor. And you really have to read the book to just see where Chua takes this story. It's so cleverly done. And I really have to I really have to applaud them for like how engaged I was as a reader. Like, how many books can you think of that are 400 pages long that you sit through and you just can't, like you're almost ripping the pages to fly through? It's such a fantastic book. I'm pissed that I didn't get the physical copy of this book. Apparently it came out in a nice 5x7, and I love that idea for this. Yeah. So anyways, if you haven't had a chance to check this out, I'll put a link to this in the show notes. It was a Kickstarter. I think you can purchase it elsewhere right now. But yeah, totally fantastic. The Prince in the Basement, wonderful story from start to finish. I really, really love this.
That sounds great. It's something that I normally wouldn't know about. That's not totally off my radar. So yeah, I'm intrigued.
Yeah, dude, Paul, this could be your gateway into manga. Is all I'm saying. Like it's in a manga style.
White whale.
No, I know.
White whale.
No. But there's a lot of like obvious manga vibes and energy coming from this book. It's still left to right, but yeah, I think it's so fantastic. Like I would find this book at home with a lot of Silver Sprocket stuff.
Okay. Yeah,
I think that there's like I don't know if you read that a chromatic fantasy book that they put out.
No, not yet.
Absolutely gorgeous book that tackles like transness in a way that is very overt, and like that's like part of the core part of the story. But like it has that same kind of vibe of like, there's just this big fantastical world that these characters live in that's like magical, but not really. And it's like medieval without being like overt. At one point, they're like talking on telephones because at a certain point in the story, they're like, we're going to give up on the fantasy tropes and just kind of like tell stories about how these people are talking to each other. Which I feel like when I got to that in the book, I was like, wait a second, isn't this technically supposed to be a medieval story? And it's like, that's not the point, Mike.
The rules.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
But yeah, I fantastic book. You should check this out. I think everybody out there should check this out. It was such an incredible, like I tore through this book. So I like didn't move. I just read the book. Very rare do you get that with books so long like this. So everyone go read The Prince in the Basement. I'll say it again. Let's move on, though. Let's talk about comic books that are on the top of our pile, whether they are new or old or just something you're trying to get off your shelf. Or if you're like me, you don't even have books on your shelf. You know what I'm saying? There's some folks hanging out with us on Discord today. Gave us books that they are reading next. Danny is with us today. He's proof listening. He's going to be reading Predator versus Spider-Man #1, and not where no one's going to say anything about it. We're going to talk about it after the show. Paul G is going to be reading Akira Volume 2. And Paul, I just want to high five you. Good luck with the rest of that book. Once you get past Volume 2 or 3, it goes in a totally different direction than the movie. And I think you'll like it. I'll just say that. But anyways, I'm going to kick things over to Nick. What is on the top of your pile this week?
So really off brand here, and definitely outside the box for tonight's reading already, is Out of Alcatraz #2. Look, I think there's a real simple way to pitch this book, and if you disagree with me, you're wrong, and I hate you.
All right, thanks, Nick. Paul, what's on the top of your pile?
and it's called Tyler Crook. The end.
Mm-hmm.
The end. Yeah. Tyler Crook. The end. If you don't like Tyler Crook, even if you're Tyler Crook and you don't like Tyler Crook, we can't be friends, I guess, at that point. Look, writing by Christopher Cantwell, who is writing Star Trek Defiant. He wrote that wonderful original graphic novel for Berger Books, based in Holland, Michigan, called Everything, as well as She Could Fly. Art by Tyler Crook. I mean, what more needs to be said? Harrow County, Lonesome Hunters, BPRD, Hell on Earth, a whole bunch of other stuff in the Hellboy verse. Just lights out every fucking time. Just
a little bit of that black. Was it Black Manor?
Black Manor, Magic Card Artist. Just amazing work. So good. So fucking good. So and this is a book from Oni, which I hate to say it, but like for me these days, a lot of Oni stuff just really just flies under the radar. Because I don't even know what I would call their identity anymore, right? Like, what does Oni do? Like, how would you concisely frame Oni?
They used to be the Scott Pilgrim and Rick and Morty place, and now they have so much other stuff. I mean,
and of course they went through all that ugly shit with that was Oni, right? With the Lion Forge merger, and all the editors got fired, and it got really ugly, and it just did not look good.
They also they republished that Free For All book that came out pretty recently, that Patrick Horvath one shot that came out. Oh my god, like billionaires have to fight themselves in the fucking pit, otherwise they lose all their money. Like, what the fuck? Coolest book I read in a minute. Anyways, what is Oni Press nowadays?
It feels like they've put out a couple of things recently that, you know, they're trying to maybe move on from that, and that's good. So this book is based around the real life June 1962 Alcatraz escape attempt, which was later turned into a Clint Eastwood movie in 1979, I think. So for those who aren't well versed in every single conspiratorial thing and, you know, mystery in American history, basically the super bare bones would be, and it's covered more or less on the first page of the comic, maybe the first 2 pages. You have 3 inmates who attempt, well, actually a 4th. He gets stuck in his cell. But basically 3 inmates attempt to escape Alcatraz in 1962. And neither them nor their bodies are ever found. They basically made papier-mâché models of their heads. and put them in their beds, and they snuck out via ventilation shafts and an unguarded utility corridor, and they basically boarded an improvised raft that they had made. And if you're thinking, how in the world did they do, just go look up the Wikipedia entry. Like, the guy in charge, the ringleader, had like an IQ in like the 150s, if you believe that stuff. But this was also back in the day where they actually tested you, and it wasn't Google with a pop-up ad that said like, how smart are you? And you clicked it. And this is back when someone actually had to sit down and ask you questions.
Sure.
So if you're wondering how they built that raft and how they assembled all of this from a prison that no one was supposed to escape from, just go read the Wikipedia page. It's enlightening and crazy. And basically, so the FBI concludes in 1979, based on expert opinions and circumstantial evidence, that they drowned while trying to reach nearby Angel Island, which is about 2 miles away. That case is still open and active. The three still remain on its wanted list to this day. But the book really starts after they've initially attempted to escape. And minor spoilers, they don't... I mean, how fucking funny would that be if they like drown and it's just 4 issues of them drowning? That would be funny. That would be really funny.
Maybe Christopher Cantwell is like, crime doesn't pay, and this is why you know what? What if what we've been reading, what I've been reading in this book is actually a hallucination they have while drowning, and then they just drown, and this is all just a vision of what could be. Talk to me, Christopher. Let us know at the end of issue 5 of this series.
I don't know how long this is supposed to go, but obviously minor spoilers. They escape, and it basically turns into like a really just fascinating speculative fiction. And this book really could go anywhere. You find out, and I'll just very, very much try to tiptoe that surprise. They had a little help. And nothing is free. Nothing comes for free. And I'll leave it at that. I'll leave it at that, folks. Okay. It's interesting. You don't have to know a lot about this. I think one thing that this book does really, really well is that sometimes when you have these books that are about known events or speculative fiction that builds upon known events, you have the people like me who get to smugly sit in the corner and cross their arms and go like, I knew about all of this for like issue 1. And with this book, like page 1 is like, well, this happened, right? And then it immediately thrusts all of the readers, regardless of their knowledge base. And it goes, you don't fucking know shit about where this book is going. And immediately everybody gets cast into this, like, this book could go anywhere. Your knowledge base isn't going to really help you much from here. Perspective, which I think is really smart. The book sporadically doles out other facts of their escape as the issue goes on, but it's not front loaded in the way that I think would have been easy to do. The twist at the end of the issue is perfect, and Tyler Crook's renderings of the water might make you never want to go swimming again. It's really fucking scary. Nice. It is scary, scary, scary shit. Beautiful book, clever book. If you're into great American mysteries, if you're into speculative fiction, if you're into wonderful artwork, it's really good. And I'm just mad I didn't find out about this book sooner, honestly. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, I mean, I'm interested. Danny's in the notes is saying it's only a 3-issue series, so this will be interesting to see where this book goes if it's only 3 issues. But I already let the cat out of the bag on this one, Paul. I'm very sorry. In my head, I was like, why did I just read this title? Where did I see it? And it turns out it's in the notes for this episode. So, Paul, do you want to tell us what's on the top of your pile?
Yeah, a little book from Oni Press by Patrick Horvath called Free for All. Which, Mike, do you want to tell me what that book's about since you've already read it?
No, why don't you use your own words for this? I don't know.
Look, like I said, I haven't been to the shop in a fucking month, so I'm way behind.
Yeah. No, it's okay, man. I'm sorry.
No, this is interesting because it kind of ties in. I haven't read Out of Alcatraz yet. I saw it in previews, and I was like, I'm gonna either I'll probably wait and grab the trade of that, read it down the road. It did catch my eye, so I'm glad, Nick, you got your seal of approval. This is also a similar thing where just like I saw the preview artwork in previews, like, I'll take a chance on that. It's a one-shot.
That cover is an eye grabber.
That cover, shit. I was just going to say, like the man's head segment. I mean, what is going on with Patrick Horvath?
Is it also kind of a litmus test for the book? Like, if you don't like that, then you better not pick up the, is that like a foreshadowing of the level of violence that this book...
Well, did you read Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
It's that
then you know
violent,
what you're getting into. You'll know what you're getting into with this book. I mean, just not to spoil anything. I know, Paul, you're going to read this next, so I'm excited to hear about this. What your thoughts are, though.
Yeah. I mean, that's what caught my eye was the cover and the idea of something that falls between a mini series and an OGN. It's a 56 page one shot, so it's not a huge budget breaker to just grab a single issue like this, especially for something like Patrick Horvath, who I think is a really interesting artist. So yeah, Mike already kind of spoiled the premise, but basically the the version here I found on the website for Oni said, in the future, the World Finance League exists to benefit all, randomly choosing those from among billionaires and trillionaires of the world and presenting them a choice: either donate half of your assets to the common good or defend them in ritual combat. I love a smart, high concept like satire about capitalism, and that's what it feels like this is. Obviously, pretty topical for the world we live in today. And then again, I like Horvath's artwork a lot. It's a very clean line, and it can walk that line between being kind of funny but also being very direct. And I think there's something about someone who has a very clean style doing graphic violence. It makes it feel even more extreme. The pages aren't covered in blood. There's something very precise about it.
Ineffably jarring about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's exactly, I think, what I took away from between the trees, behind the trees, beneath the trees, whatever. Yeah.
That's the other OGN that Horvath's known for is Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees. So yeah, I was at the shop grabbing the huge stack of books that was waiting for me, and I saw this in there. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot I ordered this. So I'm excited to dive in, and I think I get a sense that Mike liked it. So there you go, another validation for my pick.
No, actually, I think billionaires deserve their money. So,
I like where this show went.
That could be me someday. I could be.
Yeah, that could be me someday. So why would you bring them?
There's a Paul, 1 in whatever chance. So how dare you deny me? Yeah.
I will say, Paul, I think when I finished reading this, I was like, I really can't wait to talk to Paul about this.
Nice.
I think you will dig this quite a bit. Like genuinely, because Horvath is an incredible creator. I was looking this up. So Oni published this. Is originally on Zoop, and I'm like, shout out to all the people who were like, let's get this weird book by this guy, and then it turns out it's by this dude who's not supremely celebrated by everyone. Yeah. But yeah, I think, I can't wait. I can't wait to hear your thoughts on this book.
Nice.
It's very cool.
Cool.
Yeah. Anyways, let me talk about a book that I'm reading. I did this in the wrong order, so thank you guys for dealing with the misnumbered stuff in the notes. I'm going to be reading a book called Shrink, Story of a Fat Girl. This is by Rachel M. Thomas. The summary I'll just read here because I don't know how else to describe it. But
this is the story of a girl. Sorry.
Like I was just Nick, reading... this is a very, I think, kind of emotional book, but that's fine. No.
Look, I was just reading the show notes and it went anyway. Go ahead.
Yeah. Derided by her high school peers for being overweight, Rachel finally found a sense of purpose and belonging in a promising career as an EMT. That is, until her body got in the way. Shrink is a work of graphic medicine that depicts the emotional and physical realities of inhabiting a large body in a world that is constantly warning about the medical and social dangers of, quote, being too fat. It's an interesting book that Graphic Mundi sent this over to us, and it's done by Rachel M. Thomas is the author. As I said, she's an assistant professor of comics, graphic novels, and sequential arts at Teesside University. What really struck me about this is, one, the cover of this book is very smart, and I really like the idea of reading comics by people who teach comics academically, right? There's something interesting about the angle that I think these types of folks who have spent a lot of time thinking about the medium at like a detailed level, that is very different than I think those who are just fans of the work, right? Like if I tried to write a comic book, it would be very different than someone I think who's clinically spent time with like understanding the medium from like this huge, like more educated direction. Maybe some people out there would be like, Mike, but you've been reading and studying all this stuff for years. You're educated too. I'm like, no, I'm dumb. These people are smart. Trust them. Anyways, but I think like when you think about someone like Scott McCloud writing Understanding Comics, right? Like just as the biggest example, the way that Scott does comics in general is very different than like your modern everyday superhero book. And I'm not saying that that's a good thing or a bad thing. It's just a different approach to comics. So I'm very curious to see what Rachel M. Thomas does with this book. And yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting thing. And I'm going to leave out the bits and pieces that I wrote in here about how like Mike has some issues that he would like to deal with. Maybe this book could give him some information about what it's like to be a slightly overweight person. But yeah, so I think this will be an interesting read, and I'll let you guys know what I think of it. But yeah, cool. Could be fun. Like, and you guys know I like to process stuff through comic books anyways. So like, you know, we'll see. We'll see how it is. But yeah, I think that'll just about do it for us today, guys. Thanks for talking comics with us. So thank you to everyone out there on Twitch for hanging out with us today. Thanks to Danny for filling up the chat and also proof listening today's episode. Thank you to everybody on our Discord who gave us their picks. Thanks to Xander for editing the show. Thanks to my cat, Kit Kat, who came in here and was really loud and then just decided to leave. So next week's show is a Goodreads theme of the month episode. So if you haven't already yet, you should be reading a comic book, a comic published outside of the United States. It's going to be me and Kate and Nick. So Nick, you're coming back next week, and we're going to make you read something that's not originally published in English, or at least not published in the United States. So Canadian comics are fair game. Yeah. Okay. It's going to be a good time. But yeah, as we say in every episode of the show, thank you for listening. And until next time, comics are good. So are you.